I'm glad we managed to gather so quickly. I hope that with the help of the Vorna's mucus and Amanda's gift, we will be able to find a new seeing one who will join our cause. Time to begin. Eve lava brak. Eve lustga. Drink my potion, Queen. Feel the land of eternal ecstasy.
I can feel him. Join us. Seeing one.
You might be wondering, what is Lust from Beyond? I wondered that as well when I received a review key. Full disclosure, I got a review key. It's a survival horror game from Polish developers Movie Games Lunarium, divided into 16 chapters that should take about 10 hours to complete. It's described rather accurately on Steam as a psychological horror with occult and erotic themes, where players are invited to another world, fueled by desire, fascination, and fear. Inspired by the disturbing works of H.P. Lovecraft, H.R. Geiger, and Beksinski. I admit that gave me pause for a second. I was not entirely sure I was comfortable reviewing a game with strong sexual themes. But then I figured, screw it. It's 2021. Sex happens, and it's okay to own that. It's okay to enjoy that, and it's okay to explore that thematically. So what is it about? It's about Victor Holloway, a man who visits a world of nightmare in his dreams, and which sometimes makes him do things he deeply regrets. In his search for answers, he ends up joining a society called the Cult of Ecstasy. Note to World of Darkness fans, not that Cult of Ecstasy. Things take a turn for the disturbingly macabre when warring factions collide, both from inside and outside of this world. Despite a few kinks, I quite enjoyed my 12 hours with Lust from Beyond. But before I delve into all of that, I think it's only responsible to state that this game is rated R for several good reasons. Now, I don't shock easily, and just because I can deal with the game's explicit and sometimes crude displays, that doesn't mean it's for everyone. The game is fun, but there is a barrier of entry. 4 things you have to be okay with, or at least willing to explore. This section of the review will focus on those. If these terms agree with you, then enjoy the rest of the review, and maybe even the game itself. But if it sounds like it's too much for you, that's okay too. I'll just see you next time. Item number 1. The elephant in the room. Sex. It's all over the place. Whether it's a sex toy in a drawer, an artful painting on a wall, a night of romance, or ritual intercourse, which, by the way, isn't always with consent, or the naked, mangled corpse of an unfortunate victim. It's a lot. Don't get the wrong idea here. Pretty much none of it is meant to arouse. It's mostly used to shock and disturb. However, the devs wisely knew this isn't an approach for everyone, so they included a censored mode, which will blur out all the explicit details. You can turn it on or off in the settings at will, so you can experiment and see which one suits you best. Item number 2, body horror. This one is not optional. You can't flip a switch and make it all go away. Many monsters are very much of the body horror variety. You have some that are relatively tame, like plants that look like elongated tongues, but you also have things sneaking about that are clearly one or more people mixed together, and it seems no one really agreed on where appendages are supposed to go. Item number 3, H.R. Giger. H.R. Giger is the man who designed the xenomorphs. The what nows? The aliens from the Alien franchise. If you didn't know this already, I'm sorry. But I'm about to change how you see the Alien license pretty much forever. There's no easy way around this. Xenomorphs are dicks. And I don't mean they're rude at parties. They're very much inspired by male genitalia. And facehuggers? Yeah, they're deadly lady parts that can run real fast. There's a reason the Alien franchise has stood the test of time, and I think we can all agree it's not the genius of the scripts, if you know what I mean. At least, not after the second movie.
Mrs. Hudson's order is ready.
Giger's biomechanoid style is simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. It's instantly vivid and provocative like few other styles are. Honestly, it's perfect for a survival horror game partly set in an alien world. There are large sections of that world which literally look like an alien hive. The walls feel alive, organic, wrong. That's something else you need to be okay with. Item number 4, Conjugal Violence. It goes without saying, a survival horror game will have its fair share of victims violently killed or tortured. But before any of that starts, there's a scene early on in the game with conjugal violence in it. The game makes it very clear it was not intentional, and none of the characters involved, including the perpetrator, are okay with it. But the presentation of this scene could be a trigger for some, so I felt it was worth mentioning. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are still not sure which way you're leaning, the game is a free, standalone prologue called, conveniently, Lust from Beyond Prologue. It takes about an hour to play through if you're a completionist, much less if you're not. It's a quick and easy way to test the waters. As a side note, however, the prologue has many jump scares. The actual game does not.
Evening, sir. The road is closed. You'll need to turn your vehicle around.
Why can't I go that way? Am I lost?
The road is closed for safety reasons. There are celebrations taking place in Bleakmore.
Which road do I take to get to Bleakmore then?
Sorry, it's just not possible at the moment. Please turn around, sir.
What kind of celebration are they having if people can't even go into the city? Did something happen?
Sorry, sir. I'm just following orders. You need to turn around.
But I can't miss my doctor's appointment.
Doctor? What doctor?
Dr. Austerlitz?
Oh. Well, in that case, please go on ahead. Sorry for the trouble.
What? Are you serious?
My apologies. Go on ahead, sir. Welcome to Bleakmore.
Oh, thank you. Goodbye.
There's no denying the game is story-driven. In fact, there are a number of chapters mostly devoted to teaching you its lore. It leans a lot on its Lovecraftian inspirations. The various cults, the characters, the monsters, the alien world of Lustga, all of it has a history, a reason to be the way it is, and almost everyone has secrets. Of course, it's also got its fair share of chthonic entities and terrible, terrible truths that threaten to drive you mad. But it's difficult to talk about it in specific terms without going into huge spoiler territory. Much of the game is about figuring out what's hidden under the layers of mystery and suspense. When the game begins, Victor is yet to meet anyone from the Cult of Ecstasy. Still not that Cult of Ecstasy. He's just a regular guy with disturbing nightmares and an addiction of the carnal variety. After a romantic evening goes horribly south, he agrees to seek professional help in the town of Bleakmore. Once there, things are wrong. Cops are barring entry into town, letting in only Victor, specifically. Locals are nowhere to be seen, despite signs of an ongoing festival. All the doors are locked, and several houses have lit candle up front. Soon, revelations start pouring in, and never stop until the credits, really. Through it all, Victor regularly has to fight for his life, or sneak by unseen, doing his best to survive with the pretty horrible set of cards he's been handed. All in all, it's well executed. I particularly appreciated that the game provided explanations for immersion-breaking things that most other games wouldn't even care about. For example, in one of the early chapters, Victor has already seen a ton of bright red flags, which would have sent anyone running away from town ASAP. In most games, this would have been ignored. The character would have made an offhand comment like, "Well, that sure is weird, eh? Ah, well, I'm sure it's nothing." Here, Victor is actually freaked out, and really does want to get the heck out. He probably would have done it if he hadn't made a particular phone call which made him stay.
No, not this again. When will these fucking nightmares end?
Gameplay is based around 4 main axes. Mainly, you'll explore the game's world, picking up objects, then figuring out where to use them, adventure game style. You'll also be doing a lot of talking to NPCs via classic dialogue trees to advance the plot. Occasionally, you'll solve puzzles to open secret passages and strange locked boxes. There's even light navigation puzzles in Lustga, which requires getting familiar with alien devices to open new paths. It wouldn't be a survival horror game if it didn't have a bit of sneaking and fighting. You'll have to keep an eye on your health and your sanity. There are expendables you can find in the world to bump it up slightly. If you're lucky, you might even find something that fills it up entirely. But there isn't a lot of either. If you run out of health, you die. Much more interestingly, if you run out of sanity, the game starts playing tricks on you. You'll see things that aren't there. The control scheme might suddenly change, or worse. If you've ever played the exceptionally good game Eternal Darkness on the GameCube, you'll know what to expect. Early on, you'll be losing sanity a lot. Did you happen to glance an unexpected monstrosity? Sanity lost. Found a mangled body? Sanity lost. Killed someone for the first time in your life? Sanity loss. There's a lot of triggers for it, but you'll notice I used words like "for the first time" or "unexpected." As you progress, a lot of these things get somewhat normalized, immunizing you to some of the horror and madness, which I find to be a pretty cool design. Luckily, now and again, the game gives you a chance to gain perks like increased maximum health, maximum sanity, sneak speed, and other more esoteric options. I recommend the sanity perk early on, just to give you a chance, and then just focus on health. You'll need it. But You do you. Pick whichever lets you stay alive. For the first third of the game, tips will remind you that fighting should be a last resort. It's true. You're outnumbered and ill-equipped to fight back. In fact, your main weapon is a knife, which will often be ridiculed as a letter opener by various NPCs. So sneak when you can, run when you can't, and fight only when cornered. It's a good way to stay alive because you will get hit, and you don't have a lot of healing options. Of paramount importance, if you happen to see a nice, stylish, ritual-ish type knife in a glass case, get it. It'll drop enemies faster, saving you a lot of health. To be honest, you probably won't want to fight much anyway. It's just not the high point of the game. Few enemies react to your hits, which means they'll clock you, even if you snuck up on them. Theoretically, you could try to hit and dodge until victory is yours, but I've only ever managed to do it once or twice per fight when I tried, and usually that meant taking more damage than if I just stood there dishing out while taking the hits. Eventually, you get a ranged weapon, which vastly shifts the odds in your favor, if you manage to keep enemies at the right distance. Not too close, or they'll clock you before you have a chance to dash, and not too far, or your gun won't do anything. Remember that headshots kill right away, so aim for the head, or they'll close the distance and, you got it, they'll clock you. Now, the downsides. Since you'll be walking a lot, I should mention that the camera frequently jerks about. I think it's meant to make you feel the uneven terrain. At first it was distracting, but it soon added to my immersion. Somehow my view actually became an extension of my digital feet. I could feel each bump on the way, each flight of stairs. It's weird, but it's a very interesting experiment. Several items can't be picked up until the script says you can. For example, there's an early point in the game where you need to use a payphone. Your coin is in your car, where the chapter started. It's likely one of the very first things you interacted with. Halfway through the chapter, you'll need to walk all the way back to get it. Without going too far into it, because spoilers, I felt that the Scarlet Lodge, a rival cult, was often depicted in conflicting ways. I wasn't able to reconcile their backstories with their actions, or their ultimate goal with their actions, or what their boss was actively ordering them to do right now with their actions. There's eventually an explanation for most of it, but it still felt forced to me. On the visual side, I would say the animations are a bit dated, but on the other hand, Lostgaw sometimes manages to be downright spectacular, so your mileage may vary. And finally, my big one. When I decided to play the game, I accepted that I would have to see unpleasant things. I knew the game would be hardcore. I'm okay with that. But that said, there are a few scenes that didn't need to be in there. Was there really a point to walking in on someone using the John? No. The answer is no. In conclusion, the game is a strong concept. I had fun. I enjoyed getting to know the history, I liked the attention to detail, I really liked exploring an alien world and figuring out how it works, I pondered some of the game's more philosophical questions. If you're looking for an intense adventure with strong Lovecraft vibes, you'll probably find a lot to like. But it's not a game for the faint of heart. It's quite graphic and deals with some very hard topics. So make sure you're ready for it and you'll have a good time.